Hola, hola. Today's a big day in Spanish class because we're going to talk about the subjunctive mood. And we're going to start with impersonal expressions because we have already worked with those a little bit, something that you guys are comfortable with and familiar with. And before we really get started with these notes, I do want to let you guys know that it is not my expectation that you have this concept 100% down, pat, good to go, could take a quiz on it tomorrow. Really what I just wanted to do is to expose you to the information and let you process through what it is that you understand and what it is that you still need some clarification on. So as we're going through these notes, I would really encourage you to pause whenever you need to jot down any questions or things you're confused about as we're going through these notes. So when you come back to class, then we can really generate a good discussion and make sure that we enhance your understanding of the subjunctive. So with that being said, let's get started. Oh yeah, sí se puede. We're going to start with impersonal expressions. Now we've kind of introduced or reintroduced impersonal expressions in class. And so here are some more for you to remember. Obviously this list is not all inclusive, but these are the ones that we are going to be working quite a bit with in class. So I'm going to encourage you to hit pause and jot those down. If there are any impersonal expressions, any of these phrases that you're not familiar with, then make sure you make note of that, and I will go through that information in class. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I think the best way to have you guys introduce the subjunctive to you, is to give you some sentences and kind of process through them. So what I'm going to ask you to do is look at the sentences, and I'm going to ask you to record your thoughts on your notes on the left side. So here they are. Es bueno que ustedes reciclen las latas de refrescos. Es importante que la gente del mundo ayude al medio ambiente. Es malo que los negocios no solucionen. There we go. La cuestión. Again, what the heck? Struggle. So anyway, go ahead and hit pause and see what you can take a look at these three sentences that use the subjunctive. All right. Here are some things that I hope that you noticed. First of all, it starts with the personal expression, or impersonal expression. They all have the word que. There's a change of subject. So notice we've got ustedes, la gente del mundo, los negocios. And then we've got the phrase after the word que, the clause. Our conjugation is not the same. It's not in the present tense. It has the opposite ending as it would in the present tense. So that's kind of your first taste of this subjunctive. Now let's figure out why that is. Okay, so I'm going to get really grammatical with it, so just hold tight, but it's important that you understand the formation and kind of the setup of this. So the impersonal expression is what you're going to start with. Okay, so that's your subject number one. Even though you don't have a specific subject, it's general. So there is a subject, it's just not specific. And then you're going to have the word que. And then you're going to have a clause with the second subject. And if you look back to those example sentences, you can see those. So we've got our dependent clause is our impersonal expression. And if you wouldn't mind just jotting down on your notes what your understanding of a dependent clause is, I would greatly appreciate that. And then what about an independent clause? So the independent clause is going to use the subjunctive. But what's your understanding? What's a definition of an independent clause? Can you write that down, please, on your notes? So our dependent clause can use any of the indicative, which that's what we've been working with. I'm going to talk about that more in detail in class, but it could be in the present, it could be in the preterite, it could be in the imperfect, it could be in the future, it can be in the additional, anything in conditional, anything in the indicative. And then we've got our independent clause, which right now we're just using the present tense. or the present, excuse me, the present subjunctive. Sorry, just using the present subjunctive. So with the subjunctive, the thing that makes us use the subjunctive is that we have to have an impersonal expression and then we have to have a second subject in order to use the subjunctive mood. So you've got the impersonal expression and then you have a second subject. Whereas the sentences we worked with earlier in class, they just had es importante bailar. It's important to dance. There's not a second subject there. We're just talking more in generalities. All right, so how do we specifically form the subjunctive conjugations? Well, you start in the O form, you drop the O, and then you add the opposite ending. So for our AR verbs, those are going to be our endings, and our ER and IR verbs both have the same endings as well. So they're just flipped from our present tense endings. Now, does that look familiar? Where have you seen those rules or those conjugations before? If you said commands, you are 100% correct. So we're using the conjugation, the formation of commands in the subjunctive, but it doesn't mean the same thing as commands. Does that make sense? So remember, we've got our go-go's and our yo-yos like tener, hacer, salir, all of those are going to have that G in it. So tengas, hagas, salgas, whatever. So here's an opportunity for you to practice. Now these sentences, like I understand, are a little bit more complex, but I just want to see how you do putting these sentences together. So I've got four. I've got 4 sentences that I want you to try to put together in the subjunctive. Again, just do your best, and this will really give me some feedback as to where you guys are at. So I'm going to ask that you go ahead and hit pause and give it a whirl. And like I said, it might take you a couple minutes, but then I will show your answers here shortly. All right, here you go. Number 1, it is interesting that Olathe South has a big recycling program. Es interesante que OSHS tenga un programa grande de reciclaje. So again, we've got our impersonal expression with es interesante, and then we have our word que, and then we've got OSHS as our new subject, so we're going to use tenga for our subjunctive conjugation, and then just finish the sentence. Number 2, it is important that we support the program. Again, we've got our es importante que nosotros apoyemos or fomentemos el programa. Again, we start with our impersonal expression es importante. We've got the word que, and then change of subject with nosotros, and then you could use apoyar or fomentar, opposite ending there for apoyemos and fomentemos. It is bad that people throw paper and plastic in the garbage can. So es malo que las personas tiren el papel y el plástico en el basurero. Again, impersonal expression es malo. The word que. A new subject, las personas. And then tiren is our opposite ending. And then finish the sentence. El papel y el plástico en el basurero. And then finally, I'll move myself. There we go. It is fun that my family travels a lot. Es divertido que mi familia viaje mucho. Again, we've got our impersonal expression, es divertido. The word que, a new subject with mi familia. And then remember our verb is viajar, so the opposite ending for mi familia would be viaje. And then the word mucho. So that's it, guys, or at least the start of it. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to jot those down, and we will go over this in more depth in class. Look to see you guys soon. Adios. Bye. Ciao, ciao.